Hey ladies, my name is Jenny Simmons and I am the host of Sidelines Sisters. Are you a busy mom, powerhouse professional, or high-achieving go-getter? This show is for no BS women who want to be inspired to get off the sidelines of their lives. Ever feel like you're playing small or safe or just on autopilot? My guests are relatable women who've gone on a journey, overcome challenges, and lived to share the lessons that we want to hear. These conversations will be funny, sad, scary, wise, encouraging, and most of all, real. So whether you're driving, doing chores, exercising, walking the dog, or just laying on the couch, settle in and enjoy. I want to invite you to take back your power, reignite your passions, and step off the sidelines. Let's go. Hey everybody, welcome to the last week of August. My name is Jenny Simmons. I'm the host of the Sidelines Sisters podcast, and I'm your resident life and breathwork coach focused on helping women look and feel better with plants and somatic practices. How's that sound? That's kind of the new rebrand of gentle coaching, so just testing it out here. Now, I know I could have waited until October in honor of Breast Cancer Awareness or Education Month, but I decided to bring you the incomparable Dr. Jenn Simmons today and next week because our conversation was so comprehensive, it became a two-parter. So you're welcome. Now, before I tell you about Jenn, I want to say a little something extra about the business rebrand. When I first became a certified trauma-informed life and breathwork coach, I contemplated being a vegan-focused coach, but friends and family advised me against it, thinking that it would be too narrow, too restrictive of a niche. So I set it down and pursued a broader audience. But it's been weighing on my heart all this time. And so now I have decided to follow the passion, go where my soul is leading, and it is in the direction of a plant-focused program. So that's what I'm doing. At Gentle Coaching, I want to support women who are not living an optimal life. They're complaining about weight, sleep, energy, fatigue, bloating, inflammation, aches and pains, brain fog, forgetfulness, moodiness. Any of this sound familiar? Are you saying any of this? Do your friends, neighbors, coworkers sound like this? Probably, because I hear it all the time. And what's really crazy is when people attribute all of those symptoms simply to age, genetics, and living in the world, which may be partly responsible, but not entirely. And that's where I come in. I will not discredit the fact that a disease might run in your family, but I will also challenge it to say, does a lifestyle run in your family as well? If your family always eats a certain way or has always been fans of fast food, cheat days, keeping a jar of lard on the counter, believe me, I've heard that, or even just couch potatoes. These are habits that get passed down, that lead to ailments that get passed down. Does that make sense? And so what I want to promote in my new program is feeling better. Just the idea of feeling better, looking better than you currently are experiencing. Wouldn't that be something? I don't want you to feel like a lost cause or that you've tried everything, because I don't think you have. Have you tried going plant-based for 12 weeks? Have you done that? Have you done it with a supportive, enthusiastic coach beside you? Have you done that? A friend of mine reached out to me and said that she saw something on social media that said, getting healthy is hard. And she instantly thought of me because she said the messages I give her are the exact opposite. I have simplified health for her. I have given her ideas and concepts, approaches to improving her health that are easy to implement. We've done enough hard, which is funny when people think that going plant-based is hard, because think of all the hard things you've actually done in your life. Did you go to college or get trained in some sort of profession? Did you birth a baby or raise a child? Did you train for some crazy activity like a marathon or Tough Mudder? Those are hard things, and you've done them. I'm going to show you how easy going plant-based can be. I'm going to show you how easy it can be to prioritize your wellness, integrating somatic practices, and taking time for personal reflection and rest. I'm going to show you how easy that is. So please head to the show notes, and click on the link or just go directly to gentlecoaching.com/veganism and check it out. And I get it. The word vegan or veganism can be triggering. We've been conditioned, kind of like our lifestyles, to think that it's hippie, restrictive, boring, limiting, a lifestyle of deprivation and tree hugging, and that's just not fair. I live a very full life. I go on vacation, I socialize, I go to concerts, I go out to dinner, I do a lot of things that get me out of the house, get me out of nature, and yet I eat in a way that's not only cruelty free, meaning I don't eat animals or animal byproducts, but it's full of compassion and nourishment and fun. Back when I was dieting, which I did for over 30 years, that was restrictive. That felt negative, boring, and sad, really. But now I'm exploring fruits and vegetables I've never heard of, grains that I thought were exotic, spices from all over the world, and it feels good in my body. I'm not weighed down by inflammation and excess bloat, and I'm not plagued with the sinus infections that I had for years, which led me to have surgery. I'm living better than when I was counting calories, tracking macros, weighing and measuring my food, and comparing myself to every other woman I encountered, in person or virtual. So I just want to present this 12-week program as an opportunity to date veganism, to try it out. You don't have to make a lifelong commitment. Just go with it for a little bit with the support and guidance from me and the community that we will create, and then see, then decide. Oh, and by the way, if you get someone to do this with you, if you tell someone about the program and they sign up, I will give you $100. I'm not saying we're all motivated by money, but wouldn't that be great to go into the holiday season looking and feeling better than you have and having an extra $100 to spend on maybe yourself? Why not? You might need some new clothes by then. Just say it. Anyway, let me get into telling you about today's interview. Dr. Jenn Simmons is someone that I heard on other people's podcasts, and I was fascinated by the information she was sharing and her whole attitude about approaching breast cancer, which is something very close to me. My mother passed away when I was 18 years old because of breast cancer. So I don't take this topic lightly. And when I heard Dr. Jenn speak, I was all in, down the rabbit hole, reading her book, listening to her podcast, following her content, because I want to do everything I can to prevent this disease. And I'm sharing her with you so that you can do the same. Dr. Jenn Simmons is a breast surgeon, integrative oncologist, author, podcast host, and founder of Perfection Imaging. Once a renowned breast cancer surgeon, Dr. Jenn transformed her practice after her own journey as a patient, becoming an integrative oncologist with a mission to revolutionize breast cancer diagnosis, treatment, and screening. She's the author of the best-selling book, which I highly recommend, The Smart Woman's Guide to Breast Cancer. And she's the host of the insightful podcast, Keeping Abreast with Dr. Jenn. Ha 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 ha. And she shares expertise and passion for holistic health. It's amazing. So again, I'm super excited that this is a two-part conversation, so you'll want to be sure to tune in next week for the continuation. Now, let's get into the conversation with Dr. Jenn Simmons. I am so thrilled about today's conversation. This has been, I feel like, a couple months in the works, but I have been excitedly anticipating having you on the show. So Dr.
Well,
Jenn,
I'm happy to be here.
welcome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
my life's been a little crazy.
Aren't they all?
Yeah, there's no moss on me, right? Like I'm just moving too
Keep
fast.
moving,
Moss.
right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So just to show the audiences, if they can, this is Dr. Jenn's
Aw.
book, and it's all dog-eared and highlighted and writing in the margins. So we're going to get into that in a minute, but I found, even though your book is called, well, Smart Woman's Guide to Breast Cancer, and then the subtitle has to do with your diagnosis, I found this incredibly valuable. I don't have a cancer diagnosis, thank God, but it's so rich in information.
Yeah, the book is really for everyone, but
Yeah.
if you're talking to everyone, you're talking to no one. I will probably put the book out in a slightly different form that sounds more like the breast owner's manual. I also have another version of the book with a huge expansion on the hormone replacement part of it called The Forgotten Woman.
Mm.
And this is all centered around this whole epidemic that has been, I mean, it is man-made around breast cancer, which is not to say that breast cancer isn't a real thing and doesn't affect millions of women, because it does. And it is not to downplay breast cancer, because people definitely die of breast cancer. But a third or more of breast cancer is very much created unnecessarily. And it's created by the way that we screen, both by using mammogram to screen, because in fact that is radiation. So
Mm-hmm.
if you radiate things time and time again, we know this is fact. This isn't the Jenn Simmons conspiracy theory. This is radiation causes cancer,
Yeah.
right? So if you radiate something over and over and over again, you are going to get cancer. And we know by autopsy studies, like if you do autopsy studies on women who have car crashes, or it doesn't matter what the cause of death is, 1 in 5 women will have cancerous changes in their breast. 1 in 5.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But 1 in 5 women are not dying of breast cancer. 1 in 12 women are not dying of breast cancer. And breast cancer does not kill most of the women who get the diagnosis. The vast majority of women who get breast cancer don't die of breast cancer. And yet, we've created this 1 in 8, this
Right.
1 in 8
So so
mentality.
so
And
where's
that,
that coming from?
well, that is coming from, first of all, just because 1 in 8 women get breast cancer does not translate to 1 in 8 women die of breast cancer. But that's
Sure.
not how the public perceives it. The public perceives it that if you're going to be the 1 in 8 to get breast cancer, you're going to die of breast cancer, right? And
Yeah.
that's very much by design and by intention, right? That's what the system wants you to believe, because we are a system based on fear and illness and sickness and diagnoses,
Mm-hmm.
right? Diagnose, treat, diagnose, treat, diagnose, treat. That's what our system is built on. So they want you to believe that. And we therefore are so focused on finding these changes, right? And the harder you look, the more you're going to find.
Mm-hmm.
And that is great for the system, right? Because that means that they get to treat more and more and more people.
Mm-hmm.
But has that translated into survival? And the resounding theme is no. It has not translated into survival.
Right.
And in fact, what happens is the more diagnoses you make, it just means you treat more people. But the same exact number of women are dying every year from breast cancer.
Mm.
That number has not changed. We have not impacted the bottom line at all. All we have done is create this epidemic of disease without improving life or quality of life. And I will argue that we have significantly diminished quality of life, because what happens to that woman after you tell her that she has breast cancer?
Exactly. Exactly.
You have forever changed her, and she's not coming back from that. That's a punch she's not getting up from.
So, okay. There's so much. There's so much to
Sorry,
get
I'm
into. No, no,
sorry.
no.
I
Well,
sabotaged
no,
you.
no,
I
it's
just
not. It's
I
perfect. I
came
handed
in
you the box and
swinging.
said stand on it. Yeah. Before we get into a million things, I am curious about young Dr. Jenn, maybe before she was doctor and she was just little Jenn. So, for the people listening who haven't yet read your book and know about you,
Mhm.
what got you into medicine to begin with? What drove you into this field?
Yeah, it's a good story. So people ask me all the time, like, how did you get into breast cancer? I didn't find breast cancer. Breast cancer found me. I come from a breast cancer family. Nearly all the women in my family are impacted by or affected by breast cancer. And I don't remember a time in my life where I didn't know about breast cancer or what it did. Linda Creed, she was a singer-songwriter in the 1970s and 1980s. She wrote all the music for the Spinners and the Stylistics. I'm much older than you are, so that
I know
probably
this.
doesn't mean
I One
anything
of
to
my
you.
favorite songs, The
Oh,
Spinners.
okay.
Yes.
All right. So she wrote 54 hits in all, and her most famous song was The Greatest Love of All.
Oh,
So you probably know the version that Whitney Houston
sure.
covered, right? And Whitney released that version in March of 1986, where it would spend 14 weeks at the top of the charts. Only my cousin Linda would never know because she died of metastatic breast cancer 1 month after Whitney released that song. I was 16 years old and my hero died, right?
Hmm.
And her life and ultimately her death gave birth to my life's purpose because at 16, I knew one thing. I never wanted another woman, another family, another community to have to suffer the way that mine suffered. And so at 16, I did the only thing I knew how to do, right? I became a doctor, the first doctor in my family. I became a surgeon, not at 16. It took a little while.
Not Doogie.
No, no, I was not Doogie Howser. Um, I was, in the 80s and dressed like Madonna.
Yeah.
Couldn't sing and dance like her, but I look like her.
We all tried.
Yeah, we did try. It wasn't for a lack of trying, I can assure you. And yeah, I became the first fellowship trained breast surgeon in Philadelphia. I became the first oncoplastic surgeon in Pennsylvania, and I did that really well with great purpose and enthusiasm for a really long time. And with all the writing on the walls, I was about 15 years into my career, and I had been practicing long enough to really be at the top of my career, and long enough for my aunt to be diagnosed, and long enough for my mother to be diagnosed. And I went from probably being one of the most high functioning people you ever met to what seemed like a week later, I couldn't walk across the room because I didn't have the breath in my body. And I had this really intense 3 day workup. And at the end of the 3 days, found myself sitting in the office of my friend and colleague and physician. And he told me that I needed surgery and chemo and radiation and all things that I said all day, every day, without hesitation or reservation. But when those words are coming at you, it hits and it hits hard. I would say the silence was deafening, but the truth is that it wasn't silence. I heard something in that time and space. And you can call it God, or you can call it universe, or you can call it whatever you want to call it. But I heard there's something more, go find it. And my doctor, who, I don't begrudge his response to my response,
Mhm.
which, because, he thought I was nuts. But my doctor told me that I would die if I didn't undergo treatment. And, I had said that to thousands of women before, so I know where he
Right.
was coming from. But yet I couldn't silence this voice. So it kind of sent me on this journey. I had no idea what I was looking for because I am a conventionally trained physician running a conventional cancer program at this point. So I had no idea what I was looking for. I just knew I was looking for something else. And God is good. And in very short order, I find myself sitting in a lecture hall, and this tall, lanky guy walks on stage, big, toothy grin, and he introduces himself as a functional medicine physician. Now, even though I'm on this journey, I'm still my snooty booty, cynical self, right? So all I could think of is there's no such thing as a functional medicine physician. So what is this quack talking about?
Yep.
And then I remember that I'm sick and I'm there for a reason. So I check that big fat ego at the door and I tune in, and thank God I did, because I learned within 2 minutes exactly why I got sick. I got
Mm.
sick so that I could be in that room on that day listening to this man talk, because this man was Dr. Mark Hyman, who now I think that everyone knows who he is, even though only people like you and I know who he
Oh
is.
yeah, yeah. Not
Yeah.
I know because I'll throw names around my house, whether I'm talking about Dean Ornish
Yeah.
or Mark Hyman, and I'm like, you don't know what I'm talking about? What?
Yeah.
How is that
Yeah.
possible?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know. But so if that's true now in
right.
2025,
Imagine. Yeah,
imagine
yeah.
how that conversation was landing in 2016,
Well, yeah,
right? Like
yeah,
not happening. But but he opened my eyes. He opened my eyes to why we get sick. But more importantly, he opened my eyes to why we get better and how we get better.
right.
Right? And I learned for the first time, like I thought I was a healer. I wasn't a healer, right? Like I was a drug pusher. and
And
it's a tough pill to swallow, pardon the pun.
I gotcha.
It is, but I learned so much about myself in those 2 hours. And I learned that in conventional medicine, we're focused on the wrong thing. We're focused on the symptom.
Yeah,
And what you focus on grows. And the system is very happy with that because they want that to grow, right? They don't want you to be healthy because if you're healthy, there's no role for them. So, I learned that with cancer, if all you do is focus on the tumor, then all you're going to do is get cancer, right? That's all you're going to get back, or some other manifestation of illness. And the far more important thing is that you have to figure out, why is the cancer there? What do you have that you don't need? What do you need that you don't have? And what is the root cause? What is the messaging? What is your body trying to tell you? What are we meant to learn here?
yeah,
Do you have the foundations of health? Are you eating right and drinking right and thinking right and moving right and sleeping right and praying right and speaking right and all of these things? Because they
yeah.
matter. And we're
There were
never taught about them. We're never taught the importance of them or that they even matter.
exactly, exactly, and that there were so many mic drop statements in your book, and you just kind of alluded to some of them. Pain is the symptom of the problem, not the problem. All cancer treatments are directed at symptoms, symptoms being tumors. And then another one that you sort of alluded to, the medical system is not driving health, which is earth shattering and horrifying. And then also, what you just said, breast cancer is a normal adaptation of an abnormal environment.
Yeah.
All of these things that hit me like a bag of concrete. What is it? How, how did you get to the place where you could make that big, brave, bold acknowledgement that I'm a pill pusher? I'm not driving health and wellness. I'm just lasering in on, probably more literal than figurative, but lasering in on a tumor and not a grander problem of that environment.
Well, there's nothing like having your own diagnosis to teach you the lesson, right? So for me, I wasn't willing to have surgery or chemo or radiation because for me, and I had thyroid. So with thyroid, if you take out your thyroid gland, now I'm not saying that mine is worse or better, right? Like I please don't hear
Mhm,
that.
mhm. No, there, we have the
If
disclaimer.
you
This is not medical advice on this show. We're
right,
just having a conversation.
right. For me, this is where I couldn't reconcile it. This is where the rubber met the road for me. If if I was to remove my thyroid and have to go on lifelong thyroid replacement, how does that make sense? Why would God give me an organ that I need in order to survive, only to take it out, radiate it, and have to be on lifelong medication to replace it? So that's where the rubber met the road for me. Now, you can make the argument with breast cancer that anyone can live without a breast, but that's really devastating. It's
Sure.
really devastating for a woman to live without a breast. And the thing is, if you can have that transformation from normal tissue to cancerous tissue, because breast cancer doesn't happen because you have a bad breast, like no one's misbehaving here. But if you can have that transformation, because breast cancer is a normal response to an abnormal environment, any cancer is a normal response to an abnormal environment. It's an adaptation, it's a survival mechanism. That is what's happening. These cells are going into survival mode because they are living in an environment that makes them feel unsafe. So I always use this example. I'm going to disturb him right now, so he's going to be super cranky. But Teddy,
Aw.
Teddy is a 5-pound poodle, and Teddy is as loving and sweet as can be. But if you corner Teddy and Teddy feels threatened, what does he do? He goes into survival mode and he turns into 5 pounds of teeth. And I mean, he may not be able to kill you, but he'll hurt you, right? So even something that is seemingly not threatening can become really threatening in the wrong environment. And
Sure.
for the thyroid, for the breast, these are our canaries in the coal mine. These are reservoirs of toxins, and they are extremely, exquisitely sensitive to environmental toxins. And we are all born with our unique ability to tolerate toxins. So some people have tremendous capacity to tolerate toxins, and some people have little to no capacity to tolerate toxins and everything in between. And so when we see people with these early diagnoses of breast cancer or colon cancer or whatever it is, they just exceeded their toxic load early. But if these cells have the ability to transform into these, like, whatever you want to call them, zombie cells, cancer cells, whatever you want to call them. I forget what Dr. Lodi calls them. He calls them chronically fermenting cells, right? Like these are cells that just don't have an off button. They're just on, right? If you have the ability to transform to that, then you also have the ability to transform back. But you can't get healthy in the same environment that you got sick. And something's got to give, right? And so you can't expect change without change. You can't expect progress without progress, which is not to say that you have to do everything overnight and have to change everything overnight. And most of the time, like, this is not about personal responsibility or accountability or anything like that. I don't think anyone does anything on purpose to get cancer. Even people who smoke, they don't smoke
Right.
with the intention of getting lung cancer, right?
Of
Like,
course not.
nobody's out there like, I can't wait to get my lung cancer. Like, that's not
Right.
happening.
Hope it comes tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah, like that's not
Right.
that's
Right.
it's,
Of course
as
not.
as my 19-year-old would say, it's not how it works, mom,
Right.
right? But the truth is that there are things that we do intentionally or otherwise that do put us at risk and lead to cancer. And so if you're a night owl, like, I get it. That may be when you perform the best or when you get a lot of work done, or, that may be in your perception a good time for you. Like one of my favorite patients that I've had since 2019 with when she was diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer. She was a night owl. So every night at 10 o'clock, she would kiss her husband goodnight and go work on a computer till 2 in the morning.
Yeah.
And she did this for years and years and years until she got her metastatic breast cancer diagnosis. And I'll tell you that if you're not sleeping, you're not healing. If you're not sleeping, you're not repairing. Now, she
Yeah.
wasn't staying up at night saying, can't wait to get my breast cancer. Like, I'm
Right.
doing this to prepare for my breast cancer. No, of course not. It was totally unintentional. Did it contribute to her breast cancer diagnosis? 100%. Was there any way to turn it around without her giving up her night owl tendencies? No, right? But her cancer's not her fault, and this isn't about blame or shame. But you can't get better in the same environment that you got sick.
Pardon the interruption, but I have to ask, how are you feeling? Like, legit, how do you feel day in and day out? Because if your answer is tired, bloated, achy, brain foggy, irritable, then that's not good. That's not the way we were meant to live. And somehow, so many of us accept that fate. We just think it's natural to get older and feel crappier. But my friends, it doesn't have to be that way. So I want to invite you into my 12-week plant-based group program. And let me just clarify, this is meant for you if you want to take your health seriously. You're done dieting and you just want to freaking feel good. I'm offering you support, guidance, cheerleading, recipes, checklists, all kinds of good stuff in a community so that you don't feel restricted and deprived and lonely. Think of it as dating veganism. You don't have to marry it, just go on a few dates. See how it goes. So please check the show notes or go right to gentlecoaching.com/veganism and let's get started. Oh, and if you refer someone who signs up, I will send you $100. Now let's get back to the episode. So when someone reads your book, let me just speak for myself. I listen to a lot of health related podcasts, yours being one of them. I read your book. I am a big consumer of health information. I would like to live long, be in the best condition to go through life.
Mhm.
As you said, we're not, getting on our knees at night and praying for a diagnosis. I would like to live well, but it is hard not to consume all this information and be left with this huge amount of cynicism. And as you coined it at the beginning, Dr. Jenn's conspiracy theory, I walk around the world and I feel like I am spouting conspiracy theories everywhere I go. How is it that we live in this current day, a day that includes the Mark Hymans and the Dean Ornishes and the Neil Barnards? How do we live in this world with so many doctors not driving us toward health and wellness?
Mhm.
And can it be as simple as bottom line?
Yeah. So who do you think trains those doctors? Who do you think
Other-
creates the curriculum? The
Right.
curriculum is created by the pharmaceutical industry. And the thing is, everyone thinks of physicians and providers and things. They think of them as critical thinkers, right? Like that's our perception,
Sure.
that these people are critical thinkers and they're scientists and they're grounded in science and based in science, and they're really asking the hard questions and taking the long looks. And if we learned anything in 2020 and 2021 and maybe 2022, there was no critical thinking at all. There was fall in line or else. Well, that's what medical school is.
Mm-hmm.
Medical school is fall in line or else. So what happens is you may have been a critical thinker to get in there because
Right.
you
Yeah.
had to be able to demonstrate that you were capable of critical thought, that you were capable of being able to assimilate a lot of information, mostly regurgitate a lot of information. Really,
Mm.
truly. I mean, it's just, let's be honest, it's all a memorization game,
Yep.
like who does well on their SATs and ACTs. I mean, it's the
Yep.
person that can memorize the most, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So even if you were a critical thinker before you got there, once you got there, it's like check your brain at the door, check your thinking at the door, check your individuality at the door. Because what makes a really good medical student, what makes a really good physician is that you follow the rules. Because if you're not following the rules, if you're thinking outside of the box, what are you? You're a quack. I mean, for years, when you Wikipedia'd Mark Hyman, I haven't done it recently. I think it literally said quack.
Wow.
And like, if you Google, is Mark Hyman a,
Yeah.
and the first thing that comes up in the autofill is quack,
Jeez.
right? And
Oof.
listen, I'm not brave enough to Google my name, so I'm sure the same thing comes up for me. And it's okay because I know exactly who I am. And like, they're not going to get me down. They're not going to silence me. They're not going to change me. But the truth is that that's what medical training is. Medical training is for the first 2 years, you're given all the basic science, you're given anatomy and biology and physiology and all of that, and then biochemistry. And then you get to year 3, your clinical year, and you're told to forget everything. Recognize, diagnose, treat. Recognize, diagnose, prescribe. That's it. That's it from then on in. And if
Okay.
you're someone that says, hey, yes, we are giving this statin, and yes, the cholesterol is coming down, but they're not getting better. They're actually getting worse. Now they have diabetes too. And I hear you that we should just now start some diabetes medicine, but
Right.
they're still having heart attacks. So I don't understand. If cholesterol was the problem, why are they still having heart attacks? Everything bad is still happening to them. They're not getting any healthier, but their
Yeah.
cholesterol numbers are lower. And they're
Yeah.
depressed and they have erectile dysfunction and muscle aches and on and on and on. Um, but no one's doing that. And it's a combination of things. First of all, doctors are very busy. Nurses are very busy. They are very burdened in their job, right? They've already paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to get their education. They have loans to pay. They have families to pay. They have mortgages to pay. And, it's not like they're working a 9 to 5.
Right.
None of them are working a 9 to 5. So you're working more than 40 hours a week. All of them are working more than 40 hours a week. For my part, as a surgeon, I was working 60 hours a week. And for the privilege of, paying over $100,000 a year in malpractice insurance, I'm working to put other people to work.
Mm-hmm.
And you really don't have the time or bandwidth to study outside of that, to learn outside of that. As a surgeon, I would go to these continuing medical conferences and I'm like, what am I doing there? I could be teaching this. Like,
Right.
all they do all year long is say the same thing over and over and over again. Like, we weren't learning anything
Right.
because they don't want you to learn anything. They don't want you to think outside of the box.
So, what do you suggest someone like myself or another reader of your book who walks away saying, good Lord, the system is whack? What do you suggest we say to other people when we're confronted, as we inevitably will be, with the person saying, but doctors know best. My doctor told me to do chemo, then radiation, and that's what I'm supposed to do. And I say, but I read in Dr. Jen's book about these 75 other things that you could be doing either alongside traditional medicine
Yeah.
or in place of. What do you suggest we say when we're talking to the people who are brainwashed with
They're in it, but they're in
the
it,
yeah.
right? They're in it. So,
So how do we change things?
yeah. So, first of all, it's always an end. It is
Mm, right.
always an end, right? No
Mm-hmm.
matter what. whether you do conventional medical treatments or don't do conventional medical treatments, the foundational stuff, how you eat, what you drink, how you move, how you think, how you sleep, how you detox, all how you speak, like all of that, it's always an and. The foundational stuff needs to be there because that is the key to health, right? And health is not a destination, it's a journey. And even, people like Mark Hyman who have access to literally everything. Like he has endless resources in terms of money and access and all of that. And he gets sick. Like everyone is going to have dysfunction. The question is, it's not whether or not you fall down. It's how you get up, right? And you can't get up unless you give your body what it needs. We are all built to heal. God doesn't make mistakes, right? So we are built to heal. We are built to be healthy and built to heal, and you just have to give your body what it needs and take away what it doesn't. But for everyone, you have to have those foundations in place. It's always an and. Now, specifically with regard to breast cancer, first of all, I adamantly feel that we should not be treating people who are asymptomatic. So, people with findings of little tiny calcifications in the breast on a mammogram, like, I don't believe in biopsying those because what benefit is that person going to get from having DCIS diagnosed? They're going to get thrown into surgery. They're going to get thrown into radiation. They're going to get thrown into anti-hormonal medications. They're going to be miserable. Their breasts are going to be deformed. They're going to be thrown into menopause, or menopausal symptoms are going to be exacerbated. They're going to have an increased risk or accelerated cardiovascular disease, neurodegenerative disease, osteoporosis, joint disease, arthritis, and depression, anxiety, libido loss, all of it, right? All for the purposes of getting rid of something that would have never killed them, ever, would have never affected them in their lifetime. So I don't believe in biopsying things that are asymptomatic. I don't believe in treating things that are asymptomatic. And if a cancer is going to be meaningful, then it's going to present itself, right? It's going to become a physical symptom. Now, what I'm often met with is, well, you want to find it early because that is the best chance of survival. I wish it were true, but it's not. It's just simply not true. Now, should we be neglecting cancers for years and years and years? No, of course not. Of course not. So if you see something one year on imaging and the next year it's doubling in size, yeah, maybe that's a process that we need to be paying attention to. But I do not really believe in treating things that don't have physical symptoms. And the reason is that we have not proven an increase in survival from treating all of this asymptomatic disease. So all we've proven is that we can treat more people every year, but that has not translated into survival. And no matter how many mammograms we do every year, the same exact number of women die of breast cancer. No matter how many mammograms we do every year, the same exact number of women present with aggressive disease. So we are not changing the bottom line. Now, the survival percentages will change because if you change the denominator, if you say people die, but look how many people we had diagnosed this year, yeah, those percentages are going to change. However, if we are not saving lives, what are we doing?
Can we just stop right there and repeat that?
Yeah. Yeah. Because that is absolutely true. If we're not saving lives, what are we doing? Now, there is some argument as to if we're not saving lives, but we're saving breasts, then it would be a worthwhile endeavor in that if we were saving women from mastectomy, and they were just having to undergo lumpectomy and they were getting less treatment, right? Less systemic treatment, less radiation, like whatever it is, if we were saving breasts, it would be meaningful. But when you look at the data, it turns out that not only are we not saving breasts, but by using our current diagnostic tools, we're increasing the mastectomy rate by 20%. So we're making it worse. We are making it worse. And the way that we collect our data and ascribe death to breast cancer is really broken. So we are actually even underreporting the deaths due to breast cancer.
Right.
Because what happens is that if you take someone, let's say you take someone with DCIS, right? Ductal carcinoma in situ, which is not even breast cancer, even though it's treated like breast cancer in this country, right? So let's say you take someone with DCIS, which like across the board, the survival of DCIS alone is 100%. No one dies of that, right? And then you treat them for breast cancer. So you give them surgery, you give them radiation, you put them on either tamoxifen or aromatase inhibitor or some combination thereof, because that is typically what happens if you get a DCIS diagnosis. Now you have decreased their survival rate because they will have a complication of their treatment. So if you have radiation, you will accelerate heart disease, both cardiomyopathy, which is a disease of the muscle wall of the heart, or cardiovascular disease, which is the disease of the vessels of the heart. So if you take someone with DCIS who has no chance of dying of their disease, treat them for breast cancer, and increase their risk for heart disease, and then they die prematurely of heart disease, so that death gets attributed to heart disease, even though it was caused by the treatment for their alleged breast cancer, which they didn't have, right? And we are not counting those deaths. We are not counting those deaths. So those deaths that are due to treatment, we are not counting them. They're not figured in to the system. And it's on purpose to make the system look better and to say like, well, you know, what are we going to do? That woman died of heart disease. Well, that woman died of heart disease because
That she shouldn't have had.
we caused it. It's iatrogenic. It was caused by treatment. So our system is very, very broken. So for me, where I fall out is I kind of have two buckets of people. People who come to me before they've treated and people who come to me after. So the people who come to me before they've treated, if they have symptomatic disease, they should be treated. Feel a lump in their breast, nodes underneath their arm, like they have clinical disease, they should be treated. For the people that have findings on imaging, we should work really, really hard on their foundational health and continue to monitor them. And if they develop clinical disease, treat them. But if they don't develop clinical disease, like if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Right.
Right? So that's where I fall out there. And then let's just state the facts. There are 4 million women living in the US with a breast cancer diagnosis. 4 million. So they need help. And that's the other bucket. Like they've already been through the treatment, right? They're already on the other side of treatment.
Yep.
That they're that woman wondering, now what? Like, am I just sitting here waiting for the other shoe to drop? And what we talked about before, if you don't change, you can't expect change. You can't get healthy in the same environment that you got sick. So these women need advice on how to get to a better place. And so these are the women that I'm working with at Real Health MD, my medical practice. And these are the women who I'm asking to go through my course, the Breast Health Blueprint, and get all those foundations of wellness, but also get an idea of who they are, what they need and what they're capable of. And I do that all through nutrigenomic testing, so that through that testing, we can find out not that breast cancer is a genetic disease. It is not a genetic disease. Breast cancer is an environmental disease, but what the genetic information tells us, and this isn't like BRCA testing or anything like
Right,
that.
right.
This is what should I eat and how should I eat and when should I eat and when should I fast and how do I sleep optimally and what do my detox genes look like and what do my estrogen genes look like and how do I break down my estrogen and can I take hormone replacement, and if I take hormone replacement, what support do I need and what supplements do I need? What does my body do well? What does my body not do well? Right? Where do I need support? Because these are the questions that we all need to answer for ourselves. Now, in an ideal world, we should all be filtering our air and filtering our water and eating all organic. But even beyond that, like, should I be exclusively a plant eater? Am I good at metabolizing carbohydrates and plant proteins? Or do I need something different? Like, is that causing inflammation in me? And can I convert beta carotene to vitamin A? And what do my vitamin D genes look like? And how much support do I need there? I mean, there are questions that we need answered. And this kind of testing does that answering for us. And so we're capable of building the life that supports our health. But, in the postmenopausal population, and there's so much debate about this out there, um, and I don't want to say I think I'm right because I know I'm right, but there's no balancing of hormones when you're postmenopausal. Like, I understand menopause is natural. Well, for some women, I mean, if you're 30 and you get a breast
And
cancer
had a
diagnosis
hysterectomy,
and
then
you
yeah,
have your ovaries taken out,
yeah,
that's not natural,
right.
right?
Forced menopause. Yeah.
Yes. So, but if you have, by the grace of God, the privilege of living past a certain age,
Hmm.
yes, your ovaries will shut down, and I guess you can consider that a natural process. But the reason that we go through menopause so early in life is because of the toxic world that we're living in. And I'll remind anyone who read the Torah or the Old Testament that Sarah
Yep.
had had uh, Isaac at 90,
Hmm.
right? Like, we lived much longer and we were of reproductive age for much longer, and we were not necessarily meant to go into menopause so early, and we were not meant to live so long. And for many, many years, you didn't live much past menopause because you would get eaten by a tiger.
Pardon the interruption, but I have to tell you about my absolute favorite place on planet Earth. It's called Canyon Ranch. Have you ever heard of it? It is a wellness resort, and there are several locations in the United States. I have been to the one in the Berkshires of Massachusetts, and I'm telling you about it so that you can enjoy 10% off this spectacular place. Everything from the food, the staff, the facilities, the workshops, the exercise classes, the overall vibe, it's first class. So I hope you will check it out. You can book online or over the phone using code SIDELINE to save 10%. And now let's get back to the show. So sorry to interrupt you, but so the people that come up against
Yeah,
the conspiracy theory that I present of, well, why
yeah.
aren't doctors giving us information toward wellness instead of just treating? Those are the people that will come back and say, what are you talking about? Traditional medicine's amazing because think about the lifespan 100 years ago, 50 years ago. It's because of traditional medicine that we're able to live so long.
Okay, well, we are the first generation in a long time that will
Yeah.
live less than our
Yeah.
parents,
I
not
did hear
more,
that.
right? So thanks for this toxic world, because we are not living on our grandmother's earth. We're not even living on our mother's earth. And the earth that we're living on right now is exponentially more toxic. So thanks so much for that. The pharmaceutical industry, yes, they have come up with drugs that have you living longer, but are we living better?
Mm,
Or are we spending those last however many years, 5, 10, 15, 20 years in a significantly compromised and debilitated state? Because it's not like we're all living in the blue zones to 100 living our best life.
right. And
We-
these same combatants will say to me when I present the blue zones, no one should be living to 100. That is not a vibrant life. And I say, look, I don't know how much more research I can do on the blue zones, but it kind of appears that that is the point, that they're not just making it over the 100-year line,
No.
they're dancing across it.
Yes, they are. They are living their best life. Now, do they have cleaner food? Yes, they have cleaner food and cleaner water. That's definitely true. But let's look at the other thing. First of all, they are not living sedentary lifestyle. They are
Right.
not sitting on their bum in front of a screen all day long. They're not doing that. They
Yeah.
are outside, they're getting vitamin D, they're in circadian rhythm, they're not looking
Yeah.
at blue light. There's not lights after dark. Like they are very much in tune with the earth. They are
Yeah.
walking miles every day
Yeah.
because that's where they go for their social, for their community, right? They're
Yeah.
walking
Yeah.
around the village. They are planting and growing and picking their own food,
Yeah.
right? And they are multi-generational.
Yeah.
They're living in multi-generational homes and communities, and they are not discarding their elders.
Yeah.
Their elders are highly, highly valued members of their community. They are the wise
Yeah.
elders and treated as such and have a very important role. Whereas what do? We
Give them the
retire
home.
people of a certain age and
Hmm.
tell them that they're not worth anything anymore. That's what we do.
Yeah.
And so if you don't have purpose to live, and if all you're doing is sitting around all day with a remote in your hand, what is your function going to be like? You're not going to have
Yeah.
optimal function. You're going not going to have near optimal function. And so that's what's happening with most people is that they're lonely and alone. They have no purpose. They have no place in society. They're put in these old age homes or, living alone and isolated and they're basically discarded. But before they get there, there are so many wellness people. I don't want to call out people like Josh Axe, but I guess I just did, so I will. And he's talking about you don't need hormones and you can balance your hormones without hormone replacement. I'm calling bullshit. I'm doing all the things. I promise you, I'm doing all the things. And I thought because I came from a breast cancer family that I couldn't have hormone replacement. And then I did not go quietly into my good night. And I had every single freaking imaginable side effect that goes
Yeah.
along with menopause with a gusto. With
Hmm.
gusto. I would
Yeah.
walk
Oh,
into
yeah.
a
I read
room.
that chapter of the book very,
Yeah.
very carefully.
Yeah. I would walk into a room 10 times. I'm like, the hell did I come in here for? Walk out, remember, walk back in, couldn't remember. Walk back out, remember, walk back in, couldn't remember. This is what happened to me literally 10 times a day, and 10 times in the same moment. And I had dizzy spells where I would have to sit down. I would be in the office and, reading mammograms, and I would suddenly be dizzy and have to sit down. Thank God it never happened in the operating room, but it
Hmm.
certainly could have.
Hmm.
Um, and I would have palpitations. I had like a total cardiovascular workup because I thought I had heart disease because I had these palpitations. I had not one, but two brain MRIs. I gained at least 10 pounds around my middle. And that was always like that was always the
Confident
spot
spot.
of me that I could count on. Like I had a
Rocking the crop tops.
tummy.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah. So that happened. I was like, what the hell are these love handles that I had before? And all of a
Not so
sudden,
loving.
not so loving, and all of a sudden I was lumpy. I was so grouchy, and I would hold it together all day long because,
Yep.
you know, who wants to be with a grouchy breast cancer doctor?
Right.
And then
And
I would
come
come home
home.
and I was like Satan in my house. I would cry uncontrollably, like out of nowhere, just
Yeah.
start to cry, couldn't sleep, no libido. Like I was a hot mess. I was a mess that you applied heat to.
Yeah.
And one of my friends, I was with Deb Matthew. I don't know if you know Dr. Deb Matthew. And we were at a conference, and she was like, what's going on with you? And I told her, and she's like, so why aren't you on hormones? I'm like, what are you talking about? How can I be on hormones? I'm a breast cancer doctor from a breast cancer family. Blah, 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 blah. And she's like, Jen, do you not know the data?
Mm,
Because, you know, still, even having come through IFM, the Institute for Functional
mhm.
Medicine, they do a terrible job. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm probably going to get in trouble for this. Well, whatever. They need to know that they
Yeah.
do a terrible job teaching about hormones. And they do a terrible job about teaching about hormone replacement. They really need to do better. They need to do
Hmm.
better. A4M does a much better job, the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine. They do a much better job at teaching about hormones than the Institute for Functional Medicine does. And I didn't know. And so I was still believing that hormones put you at increased risk for breast cancer. And then I learned. Deb Matthew came on to
Yeah.
my summit, and she taught me, and I learned, and I read bioidentical hormones. Let me see if I can get it to come into the screen. Maybe
Yeah. I first
by
learned about that
Jeffrey
when
Dash.
I interviewed I think it was Dr. Prudence Hall who told me about that for the first time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't know what
Dr.
that
Jeffrey
was, so
Dash. And my mind is blown. And then I hooked up with David Rosensweet, and my mind is blown. And like I keep getting more. And then
yeah.
Devaki Lindsay Berkson, and my mind is blown. And like all of these people who have been for decades, like it's not new. It's
Yeah.
just that all that information is
It's
so
so
suppressed.
yeah, yeah,
Because
there's just so much noise on the other
and
side.
you really have to work to go find it because it's so suppressed and so buried. And the reason that it's so suppressed and so buried is because if you're on bioidentical hormone replacement, guess what you don't need? You don't need sleep meds and antidepressants and statins and bisphosphonates and
It's so
acid
gross.
blockers and nonsteroidal anti-inflammatories. And I can go on and on and on and on and on. And
Right.
there are somewhere between 10 and 15 pharmaceuticals that you avoid taking if you go on bioidentical hormone replacement. So
Wow.
why would the pharmaceutical companies want you to know about that? They don't. They don't, right? And so here's my conspiracy theory, which is
Hmm.
like 100% spot on true.
Uh-huh.
So once I learned about that, I was like, huh, that makes so much sense. But what about breast cancer, right? What about the 800-pound gorilla in the room? Because we are fed this narrative that estrogen causes breast cancer, and we use,
Better not eat that tofu or that edamame.
yeah, well, that's a whole other thing. The like the phytoestrogens, like phytoestrogens equal birth
Right.
control pills.
Right.
And
Soy is
I'm like,
estrogen is bad.
yeah, so crazy. So I had to kind of unpack all of that and then understand that, well, if estrogen causes breast cancer, why don't we see breast cancer at the times where estrogen is the most abundant? Like, why don't we see it in teenagers? And why
Exactly.
don't we see it in pregnant women? Not to say that it never happens in
No,
pregnant women. Of
but the
course it does.
the
But
concentration.
It's just not happening with any great frequency. So that can't be it. And then I started thinking, well, wait a minute. Maybe it's not a disease of hormone excess. Maybe it's a disease of hormone deficiency, because what happens is that most of the breast cancer that we see is in postmenopausal women. So maybe there's something
Light bulb.
protective about estrogen. And it was like, oh, yeah. Why would they want people protected against breast cancer? Breast cancer is $1 trillion industry. Why would they want people protected against breast cancer? The
But
numbers
again,
don't make
this is where
sense.
the people around me would say, "You're out of your bleeping mind. There's no way we live in a world where people want women to get sick or anyone to get sick."
Okay, well, all evidence to the contrary. If we
Yeah.
didn't want people to get sick, I heard, oh, okay. Well, I don't remember which big food company was on there, but they were talking about Big Food's response to the new legislation, which says that they have to take the red dye and the
Yep.
whatever food coloring, the red dye and the yellow dye and the blue
Hmm.
dye out of their food by whenever,
Yeah.
2025 or 2026 or 20, whenever it is. And the makers of, I'm making this up. I
Right.
don't know, but let's
Right.
say, let's call it the makers of M&Ms or
I
Skittles
was just
or
going to say it could have
whatever.
been. Yeah. You took the words out of my
Whatever.
mouth.
They were
Yep.
saying, well, I don't see how we're going to be able to do it.
Hmm.
And if people can buy alcohol and people can buy cigarettes,
Hmm.
and we're telling them that they're not allowed to buy vibrantly colored candy.
Well, then we should tax it.
And my
Be
answer
my
is my answer is yes. Yes, we are telling them that they cannot buy vibrantly colored candy because it's not freaking necessary. Like,
right.
I'm sorry. You can still make your garbage and people can still choose, but that child that is buying that packet of M&Ms, they're
Hmm.
not choosing. They are not making an informed decision. They're not even given the opportunity to make an informed decision. So, if you want to continue to make the vibrantly colored candy and sell it only to adults, okay. But then we should say the same thing that we say to everyone
On a
else.
on a
There's
box of
no
cigarettes. Yeah.
consumption before you're 21 years old. And I think for men, we have to make it 26 because their brains don't kick in before then.
And put a warning label on it, like the package of cigarettes.
Yes, that's
I mean, I
exactly
don't
right.
understand how, with all the information that's out there about processed meat, how Spam doesn't have a label on it or a
Should.
package of
And
bacon.
bacon.
Yep.
Yeah, it should. Pork roll. All of it. Yeah.
Okay.
You should
So,
eat that shit anyway.
no kidding. But
You just should not
I,
eat it. And I
I
only
believe me,
use that word because of the title of your
of course,
podcast.
it's fair
So,
game.
yeah.
No, I couldn't believe that I was watching Wimbledon and saw Spam commercials.
I, right?
It just
Right?
didn't
Like,
seem
I don't
to
get it.
match.
I don't get it. Do better. I mean,
Do
it
better.
actually even bothers me that I'm looking at that hot court, and maybe Wimbledon isn't the hottest, but it's all
It was
pretty
this
hot.
year.
It was hot this year, right?
Yeah.
I'm looking at that hot court and those 6 bottles of plastic bottles,
Evian. Yep.
the Evian bottles that
Yep.
the athletes are given to drink
Yep.
out of. And
Hmm.
I'm like, really?
Right.
Can't
Can't
we
there
give
just
them
be
glass
like
bottles? We can
my
give them
good
glass bottles with emblems on it. We can give
yeah,
them
there could be.
refillable
I was gonna
bottles.
say my girlfriend takes her gigantic gallon-sized glass jugs to
Yeah,
there's water at her
yeah,
supermarket that she refills with.
yeah. And like,
They
not for
could have a
nothing.
giant
They,
jug.
if they have 17 ball people there, like, can't they have a water runner that
Hmm.
can just continue to fill up the bottles or the stainless steel
Right,
bottles
then
or
wash
the
them and
glass
reuse them for the
bottles?
next player. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. Like, can we
If we were running the world,
can we
Jen.
really not be better? Like, I don't understand how our elite athletes have to be drinking microplastics.
Yeah, but some of them are also going out for fast food after.
I
So
know. I know.
Can you believe this was only the first part of my interview with Dr. Jenn Simmons? Crazy, right? She is a wealth of information, and I am so excited to share this conversation with everyone. So please make sure you tell your friends and family, everyone you work with and live near, to listen to this episode, because this is gold. This is the information we are not seeing on newsstands. We are not hearing on nightly news, and it needs to be heard. Now, let me get into her many notes from the sidelines from just this part of the conversation. Number 1, 1/3 or more of breast cancer is created unnecessarily, meaning by the way we screen. Mammograms are radiation. Repeated radiation will cause cancer. Number 2, 1 in 5 women will have cancerous changes in their breasts, but 1 in 5 women are not dying, because the vast majority of women who get a breast cancer diagnosis do not die of breast cancer. Number 3, we are a diagnose-treat society. More diagnoses mean more treatment, and yet we have the same number of deaths from breast cancer year after year. We have an epidemic of disease without improved quality of life. In fact, Dr. Jenn believes we have a diminished quality of life, and that to me is heartbreaking given how far we want to believe we've come. Number 4, in conventional medicine, we're focused on symptoms, and what you focus on grows. And here's where our conspiracy theories come in. The system doesn't want you healthy, because then there's no role for them and certainly no profit. Number 5, instead of focusing on a tumor, ask, why is the cancer there? What do you have that you don't need, and what do you need that you don't have? Number 6, breast cancer, or any cancer, is a normal response to an abnormal environment. Number 7, you can't get healthy in the same environment where you got sick. Boom. Number 8, sleep. If you are not sleeping, you're not repairing and healing. Number 9, unfortunately, medical school does not teach critical thinking. You needed to get in, but not to stay in. It's fall in line or else, follow the rules, or you're a quack. Number 10, foundational things like food, drink, movement, how you think, how you sleep, how you detox, how you talk. They need to be there in your life because they are the keys to health. Number 11, it's not whether you fall down, it's if you get up. And you can't get up unless you give your body what it needs. We are built to heal and be healthy, but you have to give your body what it needs and take away what it doesn't. Number 12, big pharma makes drugs that make us live longer. Yes, but we are not living better. And number 13, which is where we will cut off today, bioidentical hormones are not talked about because if you're on them, and this is not conspiracy theory, I promise, you don't need the 10 to 15 other medications for all the other things that you thought you had, but actually don't because they were related to menopause. Wow, I can't even begin to thank Dr. Jenn enough for this conversation. And I'm so excited that you get to hear the rest of it next week. So be sure to subscribe to this podcast so you can be certain that each new conversation is waiting for you in your queue. And I want to remind you to head over to gentlecoaching.com/veganism and join this amazing 12-week group program that I'm launching so you can improve all of those foundational things that Dr. Jenn mentioned, because that's what we're working on in the group. We're talking about food, sleep, movement, stress, toxins, and basic habits and day-to-day choices. We cover all of that in a supportive environment so you don't have to do any of it alone. Grab a friend, join together, and I'll send you $100 as a referral reward. I hope you have an amazing week, and I will see you right back here for part 2 next time. Cheers to you.